I've been riding bikes for a long time, and I learned something when I was younger. I was riding my bike and I got a flat and told my mom, I got a flat and I don't know what to do. So we went to the bike shop, and the tube cost $7, and the service for it cost $11. So I rode my bike until it popped again, which was about 3 days later. And mom's like, well, now you have to wait because that's $15, $16 every time you pop a tire. So I tried, out of proposition, hey, if I learn how to change a tire, change the tube, will you pay for the inner tube? And she said yes. So the saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man how to fish, he eats for the rest of his life. In this situation, learning how to change and really work on bikes in general has, in the end, earned me money because I work at a bike shop. So today I'm going to teach you how to remove a wheel, repair an inner tube, and put it back together. So the tools you need are, depending on what bike and what style you have, is a crescent wrench, socket wrench, combo wrench, or on some bikes they have quick release axles. This is a quick release axle. It doesn't require a tool. So imagine it holding the wheel on, and you're going to loosen the one bolt and open this, and then it's going to come off. In my situation, since I have pegs and bolts, I have to use the proper tools to take them off. This is a socket wrench with an extender because I have a peg. So you put it on there, and then you loosen it. You're also going to need a pump to inflate your tire. With these, you don't have to take them all the way off because there's no lock-in washers. So this was the socket wrench, and this is a crescent wrench for people that don't have pegs or don't want to carry sockets around. Some bikes, it is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but on some bikes it's actually not, especially for BMX bikes, because when you grind, you're going with the motion of loosening, so it's opposite threading, so it never comes loose. Alright, my tire's not flat, it's actually still good, so but I'm going to flatten it. There are several ways to pump up a tire. There's a hand pump, there's air compressor, and a new, I wouldn't say it's new, but the thing that they have now is CO2 air cartridges, which I'm going to use. So you also need, you need tire levers. You can use all three or just one. I'll show you how to use all three because that's the standard way. But once you get better at it, you can do it with one. Through my training at work, they said if you can, you don't use a tire lever, especially don't use a screwdriver or anything that's sharp. I don't like using my hands because it hurts my fingers. But to use your fingers, you're really just going to get under the bead that's in the tire, and that holds it into the sidewall of the rim. But I'm going to use these because it's easier and it's the standard way. So you're going to pry the bead over the rim and lock it in onto the spoke. And you're going to grab another one and make sure you line it up with the spoke, otherwise it's not going to log onto it the way it should. I don't need that one anymore. And then while you're prying it open, you're going to slide it and then get that whole bead out. And while pushing the valve through the valve hole, you're going to get it over the rim and pull it out. Once you get it out, you're supposed to inspect the inside of the tire for anything that can puncture the new inner tube. At the bike shop, a lot of people come in, I bought an inner tube from you, and I put it back in and it's punctured again. And then they bring it in, there's a thorn still in it, so it's gonna puncture the new tube that's in there. So you're gonna check it. You're also gonna check the sidewall where the bead is, because the wire can go through the tube. There's nothing in there. And you wanna put some inflation into the tire, or into the inner tube to give it its form. So when you put it back in, it won't collapse and it will stay within the tire. But on this part, you're gonna reverse everything you did. So you're gonna put the valve back in. You're gonna feed the tire back, or the inner tube back into the tire. And to help yourself a little bit, it's a little tip, put the cap back on while you're putting the tire on so that the valve doesn't go back into the tire. And then to put the bead back in, you're gonna start where the valve is, so that holds it in place, because sometimes it will slide and then it will angle your valve. And you're just gonna push it in. And here's another little tip. On mostly road bikes, at this point, it gets pretty hard. So you're gonna get your tire lever and get pretty close to where it's already in and pry it back in. But the thing with that is you can pinch the inner tube and cause a flat while trying to fix a flat. And this is the air cartridge and the CO2 inflator. It's just going to puncture it and it's going to inflate. So, and it has air. I probably just used all the air that I needed. So. And you want to make sure this is fitted on there properly. Some of them have twist on, some of them have just the clamps. But especially with CO2, you don't want to waste any air. And I only carry one CO2 cartridge, so if that's it, then I'm kind of stuck. It's worse than not having an inner tube at all. But it's going to inflate, and you want to make sure the bead stays in the rim, otherwise it'll cause a blowout, which is pretty scary because it's super loud. And for PSI, the pounds per square inch, it's kind of rider's preference depending on what kind of riding you do. My bike, I like them kind of squishy so it grips better, but on road bikes, you want it to about 110 PSI so there's no drag when you're riding. And well, like I said, once you get the inner tube out, put the new one in, you're gonna reverse everything you just did. Put the axle back in the dropouts. Don't strip your bolts like that. And then you're done. But now that I showed you how to remove a wheel, replace an inner tube, and reinstall it, you can save yourself $15 to $16, and then you'll know for a lifetime. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you know how to do it, you'll always know how. And that's what I got. It's a lot faster than I thought it'd be.
Right, well, this is a pretty good. I'm going to talk while you're piling stuff away, so we could save a little time,
All right.
And then you just go ahead and sit down. I think this is a good example of a demonstration speech. It's organized in a chronological method, which makes it easy to follow everything that you're doing. It also means that it's easy for you to know where you're going next at any given point. The breakdown on the individual points is not necessarily as clean as it could be, but everybody's able to follow everything that you're doing pretty easily. Some terminology needs to be defined a little bit more, but I think that people have the general idea of what you're talking about. It's a little tough to see some of the things that you were doing occasionally. For example, the side that has the peg on it, I didn't even know what you were talking about for the first half until you took the thing off, and I could see, oh, that's what he's talking about, and that's why you need the extended socket wrench. It didn't make much sense to me until I got a chance to see it. And that's just a minor little thing. It would be one of those things that if you were doing a presentation like this on a regular basis, you'd be thinking about that kind of stuff. Make sure I've got the right side for the audience to see everything that's necessary in those situations. Your voice projects well, you use good variety, and I think for the most part, the weaknesses on the presentation are the same kinds of things that happen anytime people do demonstration speeches, and that is that you sometimes have to get involved in doing the thing that you're talking about, and it breaks up the flow of the presentation. So you are working with the equipment, you're trying to do something, and talking at the same time while you're trying to do something's a little bit complicated. Even if you have a funny story or an anecdote, which would make it a more interesting thing for us to listen to, it's a little distracting to you because you're trying to focus on what you're doing. So it's tough, and that's one of those things where if you were doing this a lot, you'd get used to all those sorts of things, and it would be second nature for you to, instead of stopping and focusing on looking for the equipment in your bag or unscrewing something and just doing it without saying anything at the time, it would just be natural for you to keep talking, and that's kind of what you need to do. But those are minor issues that, like I said, if you were teaching kids to do this at the bike shop, for instance, although probably the bike shop doesn't want to do that, they want the money, but. I would think that might sell a few more bikes to people instead of worrying about, because I don't know how much money they really make changing the tires, so you have a better idea on that. But that seems like it would be one of those things, demonstration thing for people coming in buying bikes. We're going to walk through this thing, and you could do that kind of presentation for them easily. All right, thank you.